Todd Bensman is a senior national security fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies, and he's the author of the book Overrun: How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History. And he joins us on the phone now. Todd, good to have you back with us, sir.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Todd, for listeners who regularly tune in, will be familiar that you joined us last week. We discussed how you were seeing massive humanity moving north from the south of Mexico, Tapachula, headed towards what looked like the United States border. As the week progressed, I know you learned more and more about what was happening. Give us an update on what is going on in Mexico.
Sure. But first, you have to just know that the Biden-Harris administration cut a deal with Mexico back in December to shut down the spectacle of mass migration at our border by blocking the immigrants in their southern provinces, Chiapas State and Tabasco State. So they put up military, put 35,000 soldiers out there, rounded them up, and brought them all down to Tapachula, Mexico, and in Chiapas and elsewhere down there, and had blocked them in with militarized roadblocks to keep them off our border. It looks bad for the election. So that's why I went down there to take a look at what's going on. And what I found is just this massive buildup, of course, of immigrants from all over the world that are unable to advance past these roadblocks, and it's basically like caged cities down there. The city of Tapachula, which is right on the Mexican border, is maybe the worst hit. The publisher of the Tapachula newspaper told me in an interview that they're pretty sure 150,000 immigrants are all jammed in there, sardine can-like. And it's causing a major problem. The place is denuded of resources. People are sleeping in the streets. I saw that myself. The shelters are all full, and they're trying to get them moved out of that city into other cities to spread the joy, I guess, or to spread the population
The burden.
out more evenly.
Yeah.
The burden into. So the caravans. There's another caravan that started out today. To my understanding, my newer understanding is that they are not headed to the U.S. border because the cordon is still in effect. The blockade is still in effect. But what they're doing is that they're Mexican military escorted caravans to other cities within Chiapas, within those states, to just move them out of that one denuded city and get them into other places to spread them out a little bit more. And
Yes.
so they're escorted by the military as 500 to 1,500 a day new ones pour in from Guatemala. So it just kind of is an escape hatch. And so there's a new caravan out today. I think there's yesterday about 2,000 of them. They do not appear to be going to the U.S. They'll go to somewhere else down there, but probably not much past Mexico City, is my understanding.
Okay. I'm so glad you're back to talk about this because as you reached a logical conclusion early last week that it looked like people were headed for our border because that has been the pattern. Everyone comes to our border and crosses.
Yeah.
And instead what you're discovering is that they're trying to maintain this burden for at least the duration of the election, but they're spreading it around Mexico. Mexicans can't be thrilled with this, that the world's foreign nationals are all pouring in and staying in their country.
No, this is it's a blight for them. It's an eyesore. It's a local political problem for these communities down there. I mean, there are just, tens of thousands of immigrants that are unable to move out of the area, and a lot of them can't support themselves very well. There's not much work. There's not much space for anybody. The Mexicans have devised various schemes to bus them out of Tapachula into other cities. And that's kind of been slow going. So I think that they welcome these caravans. That would explain why they are escorting them and protecting them from one Chiapas town to another Chiapas town. to kind of just move them around. I mean, it's a hellscape down there. It's
And
the
that's
only
not
way.
and that's not the desire of these foreign nationals, is it? Their desire is to make it to the United States.
Right, and hope springs eternal down there in the blockaded cities, which is that soon the American election will happen and something will change. When once the election is over, a lot of them think that maybe they'll be released, and actually maybe they will be released finally. I don't know how long the Mexicans can hold them back like this. So I mean, there could very well be more than 150,000. That's just the estimate in Tapachula, one city. There's another city called Villahermosa over in Tabasco State that's supposedly just as bad. I mean, there might be 300,000 just between those two cities, not to mention all these other towns all over both of those states. There could be hundreds of thousands trapped down there beyond just what I saw in Tapachula. And I've been to Tapachula 5 times, 6 times over the recent years, and I've never, ever seen anything like this. I mean, it is just shoulder to shoulder, packed to the gills. Every
Yes.
street filled with them. The downtown plaza, the shelters are completely overwhelmed. Every store has got migrants, and people are begging and sleeping in the streets.
Yes.
It's like that down there. So I can imagine that go ahead.
Well, my question to you is, you mentioned that it was December of last year that the Biden administration struck some sort of deal with the Mexican government. Presumably, it was to erect this dam and to block the images of the world pouring across our southern border for the duration of the election. Do you know at this date, almost a year ago now, what the United States offered in order to achieve this?
Nobody knows the answer to that. I have asked in email. I know other reporters, other people have asked for an explanation, for some kind of an answer. I know 60 Minutes interviewed the president of Mexico a few months ago, the one who just left office, Lopez Obrador, and he asked on 60 Minutes for $20 billion. He said he expects $20 billion. The interviewer for 60 Minutes responded, well, that sounds like blackmail. And he said, well, let the immigration continue if I don't get the $20 billion. I speak what's on my mind. So I don't know if he got the $20 billion. Nobody's talking about it. Something changed hands.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was a threat or money or something else.
Yes. So the United States acts, or at least the Biden administration does, like it's impossible to stop this massive humanity moving into our country, that they're so overwhelmed that they can't fit in detention centers, that they just need to be released into the interior. How is it that Mexico is stopping all of these people from moving within their own country?
Well, they're using the military. They put 35,000 troops out there, and you can see them everywhere. This town is absolutely full of regular Army and National Guard, and I mean like full battle rattle everywhere down there. And they're trying to keep order is the main thing, because these immigrant populations get very restive. They've been known to riot and to burn tires and shut streets down and that sort of thing. And I think that they're worried about that sort of thing happening. But the way they get them in is they've been rounding them up from our border, all along our border, from Tijuana to Matamoros, and putting them on planes and buses and flying and driving them down there and depositing them. Anybody without the right papers, which of course are never forthcoming, gets rounded up. If they can find them, they get rounded up and shipped south of Mexico City. And then the roads are blockaded. So if you try to get through without the papers that they want you to have, they're going to put you back in a bus or a plane and put you back down there in Tapachula, which is absolutely a hated place right now. So that's essentially how they did it. I believe that the why of it is to, prevent the political spectacle during the campaign of mass numbers of people pouring over the border.
Yeah.
The big question in my mind is, and it should be in everybody's mind, is what happens on November 6th when the American election is decided. Did Mexico meet its obligation then and is free and clear to release these hundreds of thousands of people toward the border? What's going to happen? I mean, if it's Trump, I think probably they're going to be, go for it, And as a matter of fact, I interviewed a lot of immigrants over the last week, and most of the ones that I interviewed are extremely aware of our political campaign, acutely aware, and tell me that if that they're very afraid that Trump would win, and that if he wins, I mean, they would like to be over the border already because they're pretty sure he's going to close it. But if Harris wins, the Mexicans might feel, I'm done holding them back. I met my obligation as Mexico, and I'm going to cut them all loose because they're a big problem.
How surprised will you be if on November 6th, the wave of humanity starts moving into the United States?
Not at all. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me at all because this is painful for the Mexicans to do this operation. There are a lot of social problems going on as a result. It's got to be very expensive. It's got to be a big headache. I interviewed the publisher of the local Tapachula newspaper, who said that the vast majority of people who live down there absolutely hate this. So it's definitely politically unpopular, according to the publisher, who's got his finger on the pulse down there. And eventually that's going to catch up politically even to the Mexicans, local and state especially.
Yeah. But as you pointed out when we spoke last week, Mexico's got a new president. So if there's ever a time to do the politically unpopular thing, it's at the start of your term. That way, by the time you get to another election, it's over and done with.
That's a good point. She's not really talking too much about this, Mexico's new president. But most analysts believe that she, being a protege of AMLO, Lopez Obrador, her predecessor, that, she's just going to follow almost exactly in his policy steps. She is a pro-immigration kind of anti-borders type of a politician. And so, we can expect that she's going to be very in favor of transit, free transit, as free as they can get it. Now, if Trump wins, he's probably going to put the heat on her to keep this thing going, because this is what Trump did already with AMLO when he was in office, except under threat. Trump said 28% trade tariffs if you don't hold them back, and AMLO did. We'll put a trade tariff on every, car, auto part that comes over the border.
Yeah.
And that was all it took. Biden, eliminated that threat as a threat. And so they poured rolled right
them
through. And I think they rolled right through. Yeah, they rolled them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it'll be very interesting to watch. I think most Americans have no idea that this is happening down there.
Yes.
I don't think official Washington has any idea that this has happened down there, that there's this wall of humanity down there waiting to burst forward.
Right. And Mexico has basically its own Kamala Harris in charge right now, who's perfectly happy with all of this craziness and is doing,
and then the other
doing
thing,
her best to help Kamala get elected.
Yeah, of course. And, of course, the other thing that's interesting to note is that, the Harris campaign never speaks of this. I think that it would invite questions about, well, what did you give Mexico to do this for you? That is a question I think nobody wants to answer. And if they took credit for arranging this diplomatic grand bargain with Mexico, they would have to answer that question. What would you give them?
Yeah.
During the campaign. And the other thing is that, she's constantly saying, well, I need this Senate bill I'll sign the Senate bill. This is what I need to control the border. But no, you didn't. All you had to do was cut a deal with Mexico to cut most of it down.
That's right. Yeah, Trump did it.
That's it.
And we could do it again. All right. Hey, thank you. Todd Bensman, thank you as always for your excellent reporting on an issue that too few people really know the contours of, but you do, and I'm so grateful for your time today.